Well, hello there. This is Craig Hain, and this is going to be a video on how the Indianapolis public school system can improve the math results of their students and turn students that are perhaps failing math into math successes. Now, my name is Dr. Craig Hain, and you can learn all about me at my website, craighain.com, and I have an extensive vita there. But I have been teaching mathematics for several decades now. I have a PhD in mathematics, and I've taught math at all levels, from shop math and industrial math through high school math, and then through advanced theoretical college math, and at all levels in between. And I'm associated with a company called Triad Math Inc., and this is the organization that I believe can be of great help to IPS in furthering their objectives. Now, IPS has issued a challenge today, and they want to improve the performance of neighborhood schools that have been classified as failing. And I might add, this could also then include many other schools that are not failing but could stand to be improved. And what we're going to propose with Triad Math is to help the students to improve their math abilities and to increase the ECA scores, which in turn will improve retention and graduation rates of students, and at the same time to lower the budgetary needs of the schools and to lower their actual expenses. Now, this video is designed to tell you how this can be achieved using modern 21st century technology and with a program that Triad Math has developed. And it really involves quite a bit of good news, because it turns out today that it's possible to transform any student into what we call a math success, regardless of where they might be now. As we know, many students are struggling with math and might be regarded as math failures, either in their own mind or even in the mind of their teachers. But that doesn't have to be, and that's what this video is going to show you how we can handle that. Now, the key to all of this is what we call the triad of effective math education, which I want to explain in some depth. There are three components to this triad, and indeed this is the symbol for our company. The most important component, or at least the one you have to be sure you definitely have, is the psychology of your student. Has to be correct. And you're going to achieve that using pedagogy and content. And that's what we do then to achieve good psychology, and that's what I'm going to describe for you in this video. Of course, when I talk about psychology, I believe that is the very first job for the teacher or the tutor of mathematics. And when I say psychology, of course, I'm referring to the psychology of your student. If a student is afraid of math or doesn't like math or doesn't see the use of math, then it's very hard to teach the student. So that has to be corrected right off the bat before you're going to have very much success in teaching math to a student. And of course, then the question is, well, how do we do that? Does this involve psychological analysis or whatever? And the answer to that is not really. What it involves today is two things: pedagogy and content. And of course, pedagogy is the way you teach the math, and content is what you teach. Now, these two things are intertwined and indispensable. They go together. You can have great pedagogy, but if your content is not good, then you're not going to have much success. And vice versa, if you don't have good content, good pedagogy won't help much. So these two things intertwined is what we call the 21st century math education success method. And that's what I want to describe for you in this video. And I want to start with pedagogy. We have an acronym that we use to describe the pedagogy that I have found over many years is the very most successful in teaching math. And that acronym is SPIKE, S-P-I-K-E. And here's what it stands for. And I'll talk about these in a little bit of detail now sequentially. Self-pacing, proper content, interactivity, keeping score, and empathy and humor. So let's talk about those individually now. First of all, self-pacing is the #1 challenge that any teacher has with a student, and it's extremely important. We're talking about the student's pace now. Students learn at different rates. Sometimes they're slow, and sometimes they're fast. Some students are slower than others, some are faster than others. Sometimes you think a student is a tortoise, sometimes they're a hare. The student has to be able to go at his or her own individual pace. They also need the ability to back up and repeat something, because often that's necessary to really have something fully comprehended. Repetition is very important in any sport or any game, and we think of mathematics like a sport or a game. Sometimes a student just needs to be able to pause and let something soak in, perhaps overnight. It's amazing how the subconscious mind works. Sometimes you study a math topic or a technique, and at first it's confusing. Then if you go away, it gets easier. And sometimes you look back and say, how did I ever have trouble with that? Well, that's the nature of learning mathematics. Indeed, that's true, again, as I say, of many games and sports. Also, the student has to have the ability to review anytime they need to. So self-pacing is very, very important, and it's also very, very difficult and challenging. Now, it's very necessary to do self-pacing. If you can't achieve self-pacing for your students, you're probably going to fail with that student. So it's necessary, but it's difficult. But fortunately, it's possible using modern 21st century technology, which is what we're going to tell you about. And this is the approach we're going to recommend that we do to accomplish these objectives for IPS. Group teaching is very difficult. And the reason is there is no such thing as one universal pacing that works for all students. No matter how good a teacher you are, you can be a great teacher, you can know your subject, you can be good at answering questions, you can be empathetic with the students. But if you're trying to follow a schedule, if you're following a syllabus, if you're trying to keep the classroom going at a certain pace, some students are going to be bored because you're going too slow for them. Other students are going to get lost and discouraged and probably even drop out because you're going too fast for them. There'll be a few students that'll be just right for, and they'll do fine. But by and large, you're not serving any of your students very well, particularly those then whose pace does not meet the one you're trying to achieve. So this is a great challenge for teachers. The bottom line is we consider the classroom, the way it's normally taught, 20th century technology. And it's just simply not as effective as it needs to be. And that's one reason that our students are not succeeding today. And I don't blame the teachers for this. It really is a systemic problem. So I do not recommend today that we try to stay with the old model, which is not working, but we need to adopt a new model, which fortunately is quite possible. Now here is how we believe this 21st century method can work. You take a topic that you want to teach a student and you create a video, and you give a video presentation with a controller where the student can control the pace of the video. The student can pause it, the student can back it up, the student can watch it over and over. And so we call these self-paced videos. And this is very, very important. Not only that, the student can watch this anytime they have access to the internet. So it's really available 24/7. Now, a video is not enough, though. Along with that topic and that video, you need a set of notes. You don't want to turn the student into a note taker. Sometimes students in a classroom get very distracted because they're trying to write down what the teacher's talking about, writing on the board, they're taking notes. And when you're taking notes, that's a process that interferes with the absorption and the learning of the math. So you want to provide the notes. Now the student, as they work with the interactive video, will probably be adding to the notes and modifying them to make them their own, but the basic notes need to be provided. Then what's very important is you give the student exercises. Because math, you really learn math by doing math. It's like any sport or game. You have to learn it by doing it. You have to practice it. And that's where the exercise, and they must be relevant to the topic you're discussing in the video and with the notes. And then when you do that, the student is going to start enjoying a lot of success, really understanding the topic. And it's still not enough. Now what you need is feedback. You need to give the student some kind, I don't like to use the word test. That's a little too formal. I say a quiz. Just simply a set of questions similar to the exercises so the student can verify to him or herself and to the teacher and whoever is interested that they understand that. Now, all of this needs to be done with a learning management system. So all this is being kept track of. You know exactly where the student is in their progression through. The student knows where they are. They can go back and review it any time. This is all available online. And then in addition to that, it's sometimes very nice to have a forum where the student can log on and ask questions or answer questions that other students have and get feedback from other students or even the teacher. And indeed, in my program, not only do we use a forum for that, but we monitor it. And sometimes if the students can't get stuck on something and can't seem to get answers to it, and no one knows the answer, then I get involved in the forum with the students. Now, I like to put this into a virtuous cycle. This is the way we achieve self-pacing. There's a video, The student can have control of. It's interactive. Once they watch the video, they do some exercises. Then they have difficulty, go back, watch the video some more, back and do some exercise, back and forth until they feel they've mastered it. They'll know they've mastered it when they can do the exercise. Of course, you have to supply them the answers to the exercises, and sometimes a supplementary video is needed for students that are having trouble. If they can't get enough information from the basic video, often we'll have a supplementary video to go along with them for them to get some additional help and information. Once they feel they've mastered it, they take the quiz. Now, if they pass the quiz, they're going to move on up the ladder and go to the next topic. If they don't pass the quiz, they're going to go back and work some more. It's a very interactive thing, lots of practice and a lot of feedback. And of course, then this has to be available for review at some later date, because students often will learn something today. They don't use it for a while, they forget it, so they need to be able to come back and review it. So all of this is what we can do today with our modern technology, very cost effectively and very, very user-friendly for the student. So that is the key then to self-pacing. Now, proper content. Question number one, when you're going to teach a student a new topic, are they ready for it? Learning math is like climbing a ladder one step at a time, and you can't miss any rungs if you expect to do it without a lot of difficulty. Another important thing is the topic relevant to what the student's interested in and their possible future. You want to be sure this is also the case as much as you're able to. And so these are the two general principles we use for proper content. And then I'm going to tell you a lot more about the content we're recommending for IPS students a little later in the video. But remember, learning math is like climbing a ladder. And if you climb one rung at a time, one step at a time, it's easy to go very, very high and climb any kind of a math ladder. And so that's what we highly recommend, is you treat it like climbing a ladder, don't miss any rungs, and that keeps the student then from having frustration and failure. Now, interactivity is very nice and important. And so if you can have your students meeting with other students in group meetings, that's great. If there's a teacher that's involved that can help the students and be involved with them in the math, that's great. It isn't really necessary. A mentor is good enough, or a coach, because remember, the students are going to be learning their math from the videos that the teachers created. If you're using my videos or our program, then I'll be the teacher, and that'll be where the students will be learning. But it's still nice to have a coach. It's almost like having a scout leader and have the students interact with each other and help each other. In fact, we love to get the students involved in teaching each other and helping each other, because we find that learning and teaching math are really go together and they complement each other. Perhaps group projects could be done. And again, I mentioned, if you can't really have physical meetings with your students, then a forum, which of course is online and asynchronous, is the next best thing, and sometimes that's a very good thing too. Now, keeping score is very important. That's why we do a quiz with every topic, and once the student passes the quiz, we give them a certificate of completion for that quiz. It's personal recognition. They're achieving now a personal best. They're climbing the ladder at their pace, and they're getting recognition all along the way. One of the things that we really, really don't like to do is compare students to each other, because no matter who you are, there's going to be somebody that's higher up the ladder than you are, and somebody below you on the ladder. There's going to probably be somebody that's faster than you are and somebody that's slower than you are. And you don't want students to be comparing to each other, because that can lead to discouragement and frustration. So we want to recognize the students' each individual accomplishment, and of course we want to cheer them. We want to encourage them, no matter where they are on the ladder, no matter how long it took them to get up to that point. We want to recognize their achievement and give them great cheer. And so we encourage the students to, in fact, cheer each other and share in recognizing each other's accomplishment. Now, the last thing in Spike is empathy. When you learn mathematics, it's like any sport or game. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. As a matter of fact, that's the name of the game in mathematics. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you don't want to feel bad about mistakes. You want to laugh at your mistakes, and you want to celebrate them as a sign of progress. As a matter of fact, if you show me someone that's not making mistakes, I'll show you someone that's not learning any mathematics, because you learn by doing. And the more you do, the more mistakes you make. Now, you want to learn from your mistakes, and you want to correct them and not keep making the same mistake over and over. But mathematics is a huge subject. You never learn it all, and there's always more to learn, and that means there's always more mistakes to make. And that's really a very good thing. Now, as a matter of fact, teachers make mistakes too. To me, a teacher and a student are really uh, the same thing in a sense. Teaching and learning are two sides of the same coin. I think of a teacher as just another student that's a little higher up the ladder. And indeed, I like to get the students helping each other. Uh, that's the best way to learn math, is to teach it. In fact, I've always found in my own career that whenever I teach a subject, I learn it much better and feel like I have a better command of it after I've taught it once or twice than just studying it on my own. So what we have to summarize is we have 21st century tools for the pedagogy. This is critically important, and that's going to be the secret of our success as we help IPS achieve its objectives. Self-paced videos, notes that go with it. And these, by the way, are delivered in a PDF format. So you can print them out and have a printed version of them, but you don't have to. You can just keep them on your computer if you want to. It's ditto for the exercise, a PDF version of them. The quizzes are online, and they're kept track of in the learning management system, which is where you go to get the videos. So all of this is done online in a learning management system. The forum is there that they can join. It's all delivered on demand 24/7, so the student can be studying this on their own schedule and using the resources that might be available then to get on the internet, whether it's at school or at home or at a friend's house or at a library or wherever it might be. Now, proper content. What is the proper content for 21st century mathematics? Well, when you're dealing with high schools today and you're in the system we're in, the very first thing that we want to focus on, and I'm talking now post-elementary, we're talking about students now in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade. We want them to, first of all, master the math to pass the end of course assessment, the ECA. Now, for Indianapolis Public Schools, we believe that this is the very best way to do this. Here are the categories that we think they should learn. First, learn to use a scientific calculator. This is a tremendous aid in learning to do math that otherwise would be just not practical to do. Then pre-algebra, which is really a review of arithmetic, to be sure they've not missed any rungs on that ladder. Then some real basic algebra they're going to need, and then some basic geometry. And these go together. When you solve practical problems in the world today, generally speaking, you use geometry and algebra together. And this makes algebra much easier to learn. It makes it much more meaningful. And it also helps them gain confidence because now they can really start solving a lot of practical problems. Then you go to analytical geometry, and this is where you formally combine algebra and geometry using a coordinate system. And that's where you begin to talk about functions and relations and the equations for various geometric figures. And finally, when you learn to master these mathematical tools and processes, you learn to solve word problems. These are problems that are going to come up on the test or maybe in the real world. So this is what I believe, and we believe you should cover for the student in the beginning, the first ladder they're going to climb. And so what they're getting ready for is to succeed on the ECA exam. They're going to be ready for future math topics for those that may want to go on, and you'll be surprised how many will want to go on once they learn that they can do math and like it. I've always been amazed at how many students didn't like math, but once they get good at it through the techniques we're talking about, then they like it and they go on way beyond than ECA math. And finally, they're getting ready to stay in school and study other subjects and ultimately to graduate. So this is what they're getting ready for with this math program. Now, I like to put this in a funnel format. In Tier 1, we're going to start out and teach them how to use a calculator. And by the way, this is where we'll get their psychology right. It's almost like a game. They love it. They have a really good time. I'll tell you which calculator in a moment. Then we do the pre-algebra, which I already said is a review of arithmetic to be sure they haven't missed any rungs there, getting ready when they come into, say, the 9th grade. Some students are prepared, some aren't. Then we do basic algebra and basic geometry. We're talking about a small subset from what's normally taught in these courses, but these go together, and it really gives them confidence and gets them ready to do a lot of really valuable practical math problems. And then we do the final ECA preparation, which is the analytical geometry, and then finally the word problems. Now, once they do that, they're going to be ready then to be very successful. Now, most students are going to take about 2 semesters to go through this foundation course, this math foundation for IPS. But I'll remind you, it is self-paced. We encourage the students to study about 1 hour per day if they can, about 5 days a week during the school year. And if they do that, most students are going to get through this in 2 semesters and pass the ECA, feel good about themselves, and be ready to go. However, if a student gets interrupted for some reason in their studies, they can't complete it in 2 semesters for some reason, they don't have to start over again. This goes on until they finish it. And so if it takes a student 3 semesters or 4 semesters, that's okay with us. It'll just be a matter of the school fitting it into their schedule and accommodating students that for some reason are going to take longer than 2 semesters. But you don't want to make them feel like they failed anything. They just keep on going, and they don't have to go back and start over. Now, here's what's going to happen with your IPS students that go through a program like this. They're going to excel on the ECA exam, not just pass it, but excel on it. They're going to vastly improve their math performance, and that'll include their confidence and their abilities to do math and to move forward and to study other subjects that require math. This is going to help them in their science, economics, any subject that requires math, and so many subjects they do. So it's going to really improve their overall performance at school. And it's going to prepare them to continue their math education if they should so desire to do that. And so that's what this is going to happen. Now, you might ask, well, how's this different from what we're doing now? Well, of course, I think you've seen in terms of the pedagogy, it's vastly different than classroom, but it's also important in another way. Suppose you had, and this is an analogy, you had 5 important concepts you want to teach a student and a whole bunch of unimportant concepts, let's say 50. And let's suppose that you wanted to teach these 5 important concepts. What would you want to do? Well, my answer is you want to teach these important concepts. But here's what we tend to do today. We tend to mix these important concepts with many unimportant concepts. When I say unimportant, I'm talking from the student's viewpoint. And you mix them all together. And now instead of 5 things to teach them, you got 55 things. Well, instead of 3 months, it's going to take 3 years. It's going to take a lot longer to do this. And not only that, a lot of students get discouraged. They don't really well, there are just a lot of reasons why this doesn't work very well. And so this is not a good way to go. And this is what we tend to do today with what I call the standard math curriculum. And indeed, if you look at our textbooks today, and these are just 3 samples I took off of Amazon. They're not probably the ones you're using, but I'll bet they're not too different. Look, here's an algebra book. This would be the one you'd use for the ECA to get them started. 936 pages. Now, that's a big, thick book. You can bet there's a lot of stuff in here they don't need to know for the ECA. But what's the poor teacher supposed to do? Well, you can pick and choose, but then you're skipping around, and now the student gets confused. What's important, what's not important? That's what I'm talking about. The algebra we're going to teach the student to get ready for the ECA is a small subset of probably what's in most typical textbooks. Furthermore, we're going to be including geometry because remember, you're going to have to do analytical geometry to do the ECA. You've got to understand geometry. So that means then you would technically have to teach them some geometry. There's another big, thick book. Well, we don't use any of these textbooks in our program. In fact, what we do, we start out, as I already told you, the very first thing we do is we teach them how to do all their arithmetic with this great tool. We use the TI-30XA scientific calculator. It's only about $10. It's a wonderful calculator, and it'll do everything they need to know in terms of arithmetic. And we use real numbers in our training so that they really are getting ready for the real world as well as getting ready for the ECA. We think we've got to do more than get them ready for the ECA. Some of these students are not going to go beyond this training, and we want to get them ready for tech school. Well, what this calculator does, it develops skill, it develops knowledge, it develops confidence. All of these things are great for their psychology. Learning to use a calculator the way we teach it with our pedagogy is fun. It's like a game, and they'll enjoy it. And I might add, we only teach about half of the keys on this calculator because there are a lot of keys on here you'll never use for the ECA or for practical math. The height key, for example. What's HYP stand for? That's hyperbolic trig. Well, you're not going to use that. No longer are you going to use logarithms and exponents on them. You're not going to do any statistics functions. But a lot of things we don't do. But we do the things that you need for the ECA and for practical math. Now, there is a book we do use. We use a great book by a wonderful teacher named George Simmons. It's called Pre-Calculus Mathematics in a Nutshell. It's only about a $15 book. It's 119 pages long. And we only use about 30% of what's in this book for the ECA, but we're now ready to take them into the next level if they want to, because this book has geometry and algebra and trigonometry in it. And the facts are, if you learn all of the math that's in this book, you'll be better prepared for calculus than almost any students are today coming out of our standard programs. It's a fabulous book, very inexpensive, and so we use that in this program. Now, here's what's going to happen. If you do this, Indianapolis Public School System, you're going to provide a solution for your students that are struggling with math now. You're going to turn them into successes. This is going to be a terrific thing for your students. It's just unbelievable how it transforms a student's life to become a math success. It opens up all sorts of opportunities for them, not only to pass the ECA, but to do other things in many, many other subjects. So this is going to improve your neighborhood school's performance. Not only the ones classified as failing, which will certainly help them, but it probably ultimately you're going to roll this out to other schools. And I think it'll improve all of your schools, all of your high schools. As a matter of fact, I think this is something that many of your modern private and charter schools are going to have to start doing. Certainly it's going to improve your ECA math results. And of course, that's going to help your retention rates, your graduation rates, and of course, it's going to help your budget. Because if you don't have as many students dropping out, you know what that does on your budget. It's going to lower your budgetary needs. As a matter of fact, it's going to be much less expensive than what you're now doing. Now, your current teachers are going to be involved in this to the extent they want to be. They're going to now become more coaches and mentors. So they don't have to be as good as math teachers. If there's a great math teacher, you can let them focus on the more advanced math, on the AP math and things like that. And your weaker math teachers can now be more coaches and mentors. It's going to greatly improve the entire program in your school. And so that's what we are going to very much recommend to you. Success is the name of the game. You want your students to have joy and confidence. You want them to build momentum. And so that's exactly what we are going to recommend that you do achieve with this. So finally, this is our Triad Math answer to the IPS challenge. You want to improve your neighborhood schools? This is a program to do it. You want to and you're going to do it by increasing the ECA scores, improve retention, graduation rates. And I know I'm being repetitive, but it's important. You're going to lower your budgetary needs. It's going to cost you less to do this. It's going to actually lower your expenses. You're going to have more money to devote to other important programs that may be getting shortchanged now, arts and things that you need to do, and all sorts of other areas. I believe that you can actually lower your math training budget by maybe as much as 50% if you use this program and this modern technology. So this is Craig Hain signing off. I hope this has been educational for you, and I certainly hope that I'll be seeing you with Triad Math and helping IPS achieve its objectives.